Good morning, it's Tim Scott here on KWPC. This is the voice of Muscatine, your radio station for music, news, and information. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm happy to have Ashley Lovelace and also Francesca Vitale in the studio here with me this morning. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you two doing?
Good. Good. Really good.
So, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Let's start out by saying both of you have breast cancer.
True.
Yes.
Francesca, how long, when did you find out about it?
I found out about it about 4 years ago.
40 years ago?
4 years ago.
Okay,
4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed 4 years ago, and I am on a 15-year chemo plan.
Okay.
So it's going to be a long time.
So they know that right up front that it's going to take this long to make sure this is okay?
No, I think it's a process that they go through. They start with the screenings, and then you go through your chemo and your surgeries and everything like that. And then when you get to the final, they decide how long you're going to be on it or how bad it is or if it's going to come back, if they think it's going to come back. And so with mine, it was diagnosed pretty late, and so it was very aggressive. And with it being so aggressive, they believe it would probably come back. So everything I'm doing now, I'm actually cancer-free at this point, which is a good thing. And but I'm on a 15-year chemo plan for preventative.
How often do you get the chemotherapy?
I do chemo on a nightly basis. I'm on a chemo pill right now, so I take one of them every night. And then I usually go to Mayo about once every 4 to 6 weeks for a chemo injection.
Does any of that still make you sick?
Oh, yes. Yes. The good thing is with this new chemo that I'm on, I've been on probably 6 or 7 different chemos because they have to try and find what's right for your body. Everyone's different. Everyone's body's different. So everyone reacts different to the medications. I've probably gone through 6 or 7 different, they call them cocktails, remedies for the chemo, and I think we finally found one that I'm doing really well with, and I won't lose my hair this time. I won't lose my eyebrows or anything, so
Okay.
I'm very happy with it. But the pains are still there. The chemo attacks my bones, this particular chemo that I take, and so I also do a shot of zoledronic acid once every 6 to 8 weeks, and that's to help prevent the bones from metastasizing. But along with that, I've also got a lot of tissue, my bones. My joints are very, very sore all the time. So I do take pain meds, and it is painful.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. Yeah, it's not going to go away.
What kind of pain meds do you take?
I do the hydrocodone.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
That's what they keep me on. That seems to be the best for me. They'd like me to do even higher doses of stuff, but I feel like with the hydrocodone I can function.
Mm-hmm.
I can still take care of my family. I can still take care of my job, go to work, do one of the things I need to do.
Sure. How did you find a doctor that you were comfortable with? I mean, how did that whole process start? Did you start doctoring with somebody, and then were you referred, or how did you wind up with the doctor that you're with now?
Well, actually, I still do a lot of my doctoring at Mayo. In
Okay.
fact, I'm on my way there today.
Oh, okay.
I did find some local doctors that agreed to work with Mayo. My initial diagnosis was diagnosed here in Muscatine. I didn't have any breast cancer symptoms, so don't think just because you don't have any symptoms. Always do the mammograms, ladies, because that's very important.
Is that how you found out?
Well, we found out with the mammogram, but it was a long process because I kept going back and forth to the doctors. I was just very tired.
Okay.
Tired all the time, I could tell. And people would say, oh, you have the restaurant, you have the kids, you're just so busy. Of course you're tired. And it's like, no, it's a different kind of tired. I really just felt worn down, like my body. I just couldn't do anything. I was always falling asleep, taking naps, and that just wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept going to the doctors saying, something's wrong, something's wrong. With the fact I had no symptoms of breast cancer, not thinking. I also breastfed, which that's supposed to be a key to not getting breast cancer. And we just never thought of it, me or my doctor. And, you know, I had lifetime doctors there who've been with me having 6 children and everything. So we just kind of pushed it off to the side as they were saying, well, it's depression, it's depression. And I'm like, I'm not depressed. I would tell you if I'm depressed. I'm not embarrassed. Something's really wrong. And with the fact that they weren't finding it, I myself knew. So you really have to be your own advocate of your own body, because a doctor, a lawyer, they're only as good as the information you can give them. And so some people say, well, are you upset with your doctor, you know, because they didn't find it right away? It took them 6 months. And it's like, no, I'm not upset with them because there was no signs. She didn't need to look for that. So by the time we did find it, it had turned aggressive.
I see.
So we found it locally here, and I got to that by just going in for a regular OBGYN visit. And while we were there, I was talking to my doctor, and I told her, I said, she asked me how I was doing, and I told her, I said, everything's fine. I said, I'm very, very tired. And the first thing she said was, have you had a mammogram? And I said, no, I haven't. And, because at that point they're saying you don't take them till later in life. You're young. Young girls don't get breast cancer. No, that's not true. So with that being said, I went and did the mammogram, and we found it instantly, right away.
I see.
So I was diagnosed that day, and then from there, I went to Mayo for a second opinion, and my whole world was rocked from that point on.
So I'm sure that you've learned a lot through this experience. You just stated, it's not true that young girls don't get breast cancer. When do they start women and say you need a mammogram? What age is recommended?
I think now they're saying like at 40 you should start having regular mammograms.
But like when you talk about young girls getting breast cancer, what's the youngest you've ever heard of? Or
when you go through something like this, you meet a lot of people along
Sure,
your way.
sure.
Yeah, and so I've seen girls at 20, up there with breast cancer.
Okay.
And especially at the Mayo Clinic, that's the really bad cases. You really go there when you're bad off. So, like I said, I've seen girls that are 20, and initially when I first started 4 years ago, 50 was the time to get the mammograms.
Okay.
But I read a lot, and I've talked to a lot of the doctors at Mayo. They are now suggesting at 40. Me personally, I would even suggest it even sooner. It's a
and
test.
you were in your late 30s?
I was 43 when I was diagnosed.
43.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. So
what is the name of the cancer that you have? Do you recall the name of it? No.
I don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't remember it correctly. Do you?
So when you find out.
Inductal carcinoma, that's what I had initially. Inductal carcinoma, that's the name of it.
Okay.
Because they said it was in the duct. And that was one of the reasons they didn't find it right away. Because when I always did give myself self-breast exams.
Sure.
It didn't run in my family, but it was just a natural thing for me to do. Plus with the fact breastfeeding, I was always feeling around. And
so it's more inside.
It was inside
where
the
you
duct,
can't feel
exactly.
it.
So I didn't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason, you really had to press in hard to feel it when they brought it to my knowledge that it was there. Then when I really pressed in hard, I thought I was pressing in enough, but I wasn't, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And mine you could feel, it was right at the surface almost, and you could feel it right away. I was shocked that I didn't feel it before then.
So Ashley, come up a little bit
Yep.
closer. So Ashley Lovelace is here with us, and recently, within the past few months, you too found out that you had breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yours, you just said you could feel through. Were you taking a shower, or how did it come about?
Actually, it's kind of like a running joke because my sister had bought me some tanning sessions for Mother's Day, and I hadn't tanned in I don't even know how long, and so she had bought me those, and that's how I found out. Like I don't know, it was just something about the way I was laying in the tanning bed, and I just noticed it, just by chance. And so I will admit I did not do regular exam. I'm only 33, you know, I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
And you do. I'm 33 and I have breast cancer. And so I tell my friends, now it's like, well, yeah, we are young. Maybe it's not as common, but here I am.
Through everything that you both have learned, what does research indicate things that contribute to breast cancer, or is there any one or two or three things that contribute to it, or is it just something that happens to your body?
Well, Ashley and I were just having this conversation out when we were sitting down. They say there's lots of things that contribute to breast cancer, but also I was the one who, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I always ate healthy, everything was organic. I did everything right. I breastfed all these kids, so it was like breast cancer was the least thing from my mind, and my doctors, because they knew me well, so they're like, we didn't even think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll sit there and you say, well, what did I do wrong? How did I get this? I look at, I have my sisters, they drink, they smoke, they go out, they don't eat healthy, and it's like, how did I get this? How, why am I the one that's sick? And Ashley and I were just having that conversation. I personally think there's nothing that anyone does. It's just there. And if it's going to get to you, it's going to get to you. But the one thing I have learned, early detection is the best thing.
Because you always hear that cancer is inside of everyone,
Yes.
and there's something that turns on a gene that makes that expression of that gene turn positive and become cancer.
Right.
But I don't think they know what it is yet.
And I think I've learned, I mean, I know it's probably the same with all cancers, but with breast cancer, I've learned there are so many different things that kind of go into it. So I'm triple negative. Well, you could be,
What does
I'm
that
estrogen.
mean?
So
yeah,
it's
so
just
hers
what
is
does all that mean?
Hers is estrogen driven. Mine is not.
Okay.
So there are so many different contributing factors. I don't know if you can do one thing or another.
What did that do to your hormone level? Do you take like additional hormones now?
Okay, so when you have estrogen cancer, for myself, you don't want to produce estrogen.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I think it's too much estrogen going through your system, and that's what they say the cause of mine was. So what we did right away, and we went ahead and we removed my ovaries. Thank God I had already had 6 beautiful children, so I was good with having babies. If I had been younger and was still, that probably would have been a problem. But in my case, I was already through having the kids. So right away the doctors were like, okay, now we have to do preventative because a woman produces estrogen no matter what. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So we went ahead, and during all this, I was dealing with breast cancer. We removed my ovaries. They took me off. And that's the thing with the triple negative like Ashley has. Hormones actually would help her case.
I see.
And so with me, I couldn't do anything hormonal. So estrogen is actually worse than triple negative, but it's more curable than triple negative too.
Okay.
Because of the fact we can shut down the ovaries. And so for a year, what we did, it's called suppressing your ovaries. They would put my ovaries to sleep every month. So I would go in, I would get a shot, and it would shut down my ovaries. We did that for about a year. Very, very painful side effects. I mean, I was just always sick, always vomiting. It was bad. And so at that point I said, you know what, can we remove my ovaries? And the doctors said to me, thank God you asked, Francesca, because we cannot ask you to remove something that isn't broke.
Oh, okay.
So but the fact that you asked yourself, yes, we can take them ovaries out. And we literally did it like within that week. I was like, okay, let's get it out. So that saved my life a lot in the sense of being sick. I no longer had to go in once a month to get the ovary shot. It was really good. So, yeah, if it's hormonal by any chance and you're done having your kids, I would highly recommend that.
So they can't even suggest it?
No. That's one thing that the doctors say. They cannot suggest to do anything that
don't
isn't
remove
broke.
something that's not broken.
Okay.
Even though it was affecting.
Yes, yeah. And that really surprised me because you would think right away they would say that, but they didn't even suggest it.
Have you experienced anything like that? Or?
I haven't, because I actually, in the very beginning, they thought that maybe because I had a complete hysterectomy due to other issues that I was having health-wise, and then the cancer came. And so they thought right away, they were thinking in their minds that it was some kind of estrogen-driven cancer, but then, I'm triple negative and it has nothing to do with that. So it was kind of odd because right away they're like, oh, well, that's the cause. You had your hysterectomy and now months later you have this cancer. And it was aggressive. It was fairly large by the time I found it. And I saw my doctor, my oncologist, 1 week, and I had another appointment 2 weeks later, and it had tripled in size in those amount of weeks.
Wow.
That's why they wanted to start things so quickly. It was very aggressive, and why we have to watch things so closely now.
And in my case, I had gone to Mayo that day. I didn't even come home. When I got to Mayo, they said every day of cancer, the type of cancer that I had going on, it was so aggressive, it was equivalent to almost 3 months of cancer. So they said, every day you're at 3 months of cancer. You're not going home. You're having surgery tomorrow.
Wow.
And I remember saying, wait, my kids aren't here. My mom's not here. My sisters aren't here. And the surgeon just looked at me, and the oncologist, they said, well, we don't need your mother. We don't need your sister. We need that breast off, and it's here, so we're doing this tomorrow. Otherwise, you're on your own. They said, you're bad. I mean, it was pretty rough there.
Scary.
So, yeah, I didn't even come home from Mayo. I had my surgery the very next day.
I can't imagine going through an experience like that. What got you through it?
For me, it was my children. And sometimes I think, that's why it's good when we do get it at a younger age, because we have these little ones. And they're scared. They see their mom, they see, mommy's not feeling good. Her hair's coming out. She's lost her eyebrows. You know, you don't look like yourself at all. You know, you can put makeup on, you can throw a wig on, and, you know, everyone thinks, oh, she's fine. We never even knew she lost her hair. But when you're home, that's when it really hits you. And my kids, I would see that they were frightened. So when I would see they were frightened, that's what gave me the energy, and I would say, no. You can do this to me all you want, but I'm not going to let my children go through this. So I'd say, put your big girl panties on, Francesca, and start fighting. And that's where they come with fight like a girl. Yep. And it's true. So you fight and you just keep going for your children.
Yeah. We were talking about in the other room, at least we feel like, you know, having cancer, we're more taking care of the other people who are around us, our family, and like, it's okay, you know, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what has kept me positive and has kept me going and strong, is because I have to, you know, I need to take care of my baby. She's, you know, she's 7. She's scared. The other day, I just told Francesca, she asked me, Mommy, how many more chemo treatments do we have? And she said that, how many do we have? And it's true, because your whole family goes through it. Your kiddos see you sick, and it's a scary thing. And so, like she said, you know, it gets you out of bed. That's what gets...
And we were both talking. You hear people, you know, they can't get out of... And I'm sure, believe me, I've been very sick where I couldn't get out of bed. But with the fact that you do have young children, and they are so afraid, her and I both said this morning, we both get up every single morning. I would make myself a cup of coffee. I just kind of went with the norm. You know, I'd get up every morning, go see my children off, watch them go to school, say goodbye, and I could always see in their faces, like we were both saying, our little ones would say, what if you're not here when I get back, Mom?
Oh, geez.
I mean, and that just, if that doesn't give you a will to fight, I don't know what will, you know. And we were talking, my little one, Santino, he was only 7, or he was 4 at the time. He's 7 now. He actually was held back a year from school because he couldn't leave me. And everyone's like, well, he has to go to school. He has to go to school. I said, you don't understand what this is doing to him mentally. You know, he's scared.
This is more important.
This is more important. And, you know, the schools would say, well, he's missing a lot of school. And I said, I don't care. I don't care if I have to homeschool him.
Right.
And I needed him there as much as he needed me.
Sure.
Because when I would see him, it would give me the energy to say, we're fine. We're going to do this.
Sure. This
little boy is 4 years old. And I was telling Ashley, he learned how to change the tubing on when I would have my surgeries. He learned all my medications. He knew the times, you know. And, yeah, and so, and that was a thing we were talking about. It's not just you who goes down. Actually, I feel like, and she said the same thing, so we were both giggling about it. Our families went down more than we did. My husband just broke down, and he's a very strong guy. I mean, he had to work, you know, 6 kids. And he looked at me one day and he said, Francesca, I can't do this. He says, this is the one thing I can't fix for you. He's like, and I'm watching you deteriorate on this. You know, you start losing weight. You get skinny. Your eyes are pitch black. I mean, you have no hair. You have no eyebrows. I think it's different for a man, you know, because your hair, your feminine, is the...
Sure.
It was just crazy. Yeah, it was bad. And he kept saying, he says, I can't fix this. And he couldn't deal with that. So it was like, not only did I have to take care of myself, my baby, my other children, but now I have to give my husband encouragement also to say, I'm okay, you know, I've got this. And so...
Well, guys are, I'll tell you, guys are babies. Guys are weak. Guys that don't deal well with being sick. So
yeah, and my husband said several times, he's like, I don't know how to say it. He's like, but I would say, I'm so glad God gave this to me, because I could never bear watching one of my children go through this, the pain, the nausea, just everything. And my husband would have never made it. And he says that, not that he's a weak guy, it's just they can't fix it. And as a man, you know, he's used to fixing everything.
So both of you have had a large amount of support from friends and people that you don't even know. Ashley, my goodness, the benefit that was held for you down at the old Elms restaurant down there at Mr. Sippy's. I just couldn't believe how large that event grew into, and I was like, this is great that people would do this for you. And Francesca, you're talking like so many people were calling you and reaching out to you, and the support is just overwhelming sometimes, would you say?
Yes. Well, the first thing I told Ashley when I found out she had cancer, do you remember the first thing I told her? I said, Ashley, one thing you've got going for you, if you're going to get sick anywhere, Muscatine's the place to get sick in. I said, because everyone here, everyone has been so supportive, and they will go above and beyond. And for me, it was, I had very good insurance, thank God. I was good. We were okay. And so But right away, the fire department stepped in, the police department, we want to do fundraisers for her. And I said, we're good. We're okay. Save it for someone. I took it differently. I was just like, I can do this. And so, but the meal train, believe it or not, and I own a restaurant. So that was my hardest thing. I remember one of my friends calling and saying, what can we do to help you? You don't want to benefit. You don't want this. And I said, believe it or not, the hardest thing is going to be my children. For food. I said, because I'm so weak, I'm so sick, I can't get out of bed to cook for them. Mm-hmm. And, they're not going to want to eat pizza every night, Right. So it was like, everybody's like, well, with the restaurant, we didn't even think of that. So one of my friends, I think I was pretty, like, one of the first people to ever have a meal train.
That was the first time I had ever seen it.
Yeah, it was, I really do believe I was one of the first ones to do the meal train.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so my friend called me one day, and like I said, she's like, what can I do? I feel so useless. What am I going to do? And I said, we just really, the meals, I said, I don't know how I'm going to prepare. I have 6 kids. And she said, you know what? I just read something on Facebook. She said, I'll call you back in a few minutes. And I was just like, okay, great. Now what, And then mine was kind of, I didn't put a lot on Facebook. I kind of kept it to myself and my family. Because being in a business, it was just overwhelming for my children, for my husband. They were just getting bombarded. So I kind of kept mine more in personal. And so so my friend went ahead and she called me back and she said, I'm going to do this meal train. And I'm like, what the heck's a meal train? Never heard of it before. And she says, well, everybody will sign up to bring your meals morning, noon, and night for the kids. And I was like, are you kidding me? And she says, no. And I said, well, okay, let's try it. So she did, and she wrote this really nice article about how I needed help and things, but nobody signed up. And so we were like, what's going on? Everybody, there was a few people that were signing up, but mine was long. I was moving to Rochester, Minnesota, because I was the second person ever to do this new treatment in the United States. So I had to move to Minnesota. So I was going to be gone for a total of 6 weeks. It was 35 rounds of radiation. And that's a long time. I mean, you think, 35 days, but 35 days is a long time to have mommy gone. So she called and she put this thing on Facebook and nobody was signing up, just a few people here or there. And she's like, well, what the heck's going on? And so then I'll never forget this, a local person here in town. I don't know if I can say her name or not.
Sure.
Okay, well, actually, it was Laura Schroeder, who's very well known here in town. And she got on Facebook that day and she wrote, if anyone knows Laura, she's very outspoken. And she's like, what the hell's the matter with all you people? She's like, Sam and Francesca have donated so much. At some point in your life, you've had a meal for free. They've taken care of the community at a funeral, at a wedding, everything. She says, and now they need help and no one's signing up for this. She's like, get your butts in gear and start signing up for this. And then I never forget, because it's like everybody started signing up and everyone was saying, well, we were afraid to cook for them because they own a restaurant. We can't cook as well as they cook. And, we didn't know what to cook for them. So that was the problem. That was why no one was signing up. And I remember going on Facebook just saying anything will work for they're kids. Right. You're not feeding me. And even if you were, I'll eat anything. Just because we own a restaurant, we can't eat Italian every day. And so everyone started signing up. And then that was the biggest relief of my life. I'm not kidding you, because I was in Rochester, Minnesota. I knew my kids were being fed. And people were just so kind. There was time slots. What time breakfast would come, what time lunch would come, what time evening would come. Wow. And the kids knew. And sometimes I'd feel bad because, they wouldn't even come in. The kids would be like, they just dropped it off at the door because they don't want to bother you when you're sick. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to take you. And so, but yeah, the kids were always well fed. So that was one thing. And that's where awesome. I say, being in Muscatine, it was just amazing. Everyone was willing to help transport the kids.
It was one less thing off your plate.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about, okay, do I have, first of all, the groceries to even make anything if I wanted to? Mm-hmm. I mean, I always told people, if I was at Walmart, they're like, oh, you're out. I'm like, yeah, this is my daily outing. I'm at Walmart. Yes. And this is good, for me to be able to go and do my own grocery shopping today,
right.
When things were really bad. And so the meal train was awesome.
That was my favorite thing. I think that was the best thing that anybody could have done. And so whenever I do see a meal train, I always try to, I always sign up last because I want to take the places that nobody else does. Because I know how important it is. Because when you're sick and you're vomiting and you're going through cancer, the smell just makes you nauseated from any food. I mean, I couldn't even cook. Mm-hmm. I would just start vomiting all the time when I would smell anything.
Yeah.
So for me, like I said, the meal train was amazing. And yeah, so that's why I told Ashley. I'm like, Ashley, I'll tell you what. I said, if you're going to get sick anywhere, I said, Muscatine's the place to get sick because everyone here will help you. I said, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because I've always been the type where I never ask for help. People would say, oh, do you need help with the kids? This. No, I'm good. And that's another thing I recommend. do accept the help. And I finally got to the point where I was so sick that I had to accept it. And I thought, I am so dumb. Why didn't I accept help? Why didn't I do this whole time? Everybody was there to help. I've been there. Ashley's a big person here in town too. Both of us have done numerous events, numerous things to support people and help people get through stuff. And then when it came to us, it was like,
because it's personal, and it's pride.
Yeah.
And you own a restaurant. You cook.
Exactly.
You don't need meals from people.
And that was the hardest thing.
Yeah, there's the point where you say,
yes,
you give in to it.
You do. Well, you have to. You get to the point.
So let's talk about what both of you would advise to women of all ages. Get the mammogram.
Well, yeah, get the mammogram. But I guess when I'm speaking to people who are my age, at 33, most insurances won't even pay for it at that point. I mean, unless it is like, I found a lump, now I need a mammogram. Most insurances don't just pay for you to have that done.
Really?
It's an expensive test, and they won't pay for it unless you really push it or there is a reason why you need to have a mammogram.
So if a doctor says you should have one, do they pay for it then?
Generally during like a yearly checkup. So that's another thing. And I've always kind of pushed this on people. Like, even if you're not sick, go and have your yearly checkup. There are things that they do for you, breast exam being one of them. Even just, the doctor feeling someone other than yourself doing a breast exam is different than when you feel yourself every day, or if you're doing them on a regular basis. So always do your self exams, but go for those yearly checkups, especially if you're too young for those yearly mammograms, so that someone else can be checking and making sure that there's not a lump that you didn't feel. I never thought to check my lymph nodes in my armpits, which is something that they tell you to do. And
well, they always say 4 eyes are better than 2. So, you always better to have another opinion on anything.
Sure.
And like she says, the insurance companies don't pay for it. But I actually put a post on Facebook one day. If you're ever going to spend money on anything in your life, spend it on that mammogram, because early detection is the key. If it's caught early enough. When I was initially diagnosed, they said we caught it early enough. It was stage 0. I'd have to remove the breast, but no chemo, no radiation. I was ecstatic. I was like, okay, I just have to remove the breast, no chemo, no radiation. Well, that wasn't the case. I went to another doctor to get a second opinion. When I got to Mayo, they're like, no, you're very aggressive. In fact, they said if I wouldn't have been there, I probably had 2 more months to live.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so it was. That's why I said my world was just rocked. And that's why they did the surgery the very next day. So again, just because one doctor says one thing, always please, please, please go for second opinions. And like I said initially, you have to be your own advocate for your body, because I kept saying, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. I know my body. I'm not this tired on a natural base.
For me, as like a mother, whenever something's wrong with my daughter and they're like, well, she's fine. These tests came back fine. You're always their advocate, and you fight for them. But when it's yourself, I was just kind of like, or whatever.
You blow it off. Right?
Yeah, you blow it off when you have symptoms, or I've got stuff to do. I need to get to work. I can't, all of these things. And you have to take care of yourself. And one thing I've learned, I'm like, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't get through this, I can't take care of my daughter.
Sure.
Sure. That's not an option anymore. And so that's kind of been my eye-opener, and my, like, you have to take care of yourself, Ashley. We have to, we have to take these steps so that I can continue to take care of my baby. So. Yes.
And let's talk about work for a minute, because I think there's an inherited, hardwired behavior in every human being that sitting around doesn't do any good for anybody, but if you get up and move around, you actually find out that you feel better.
Yes.
Yeah, so there have been, I work here, so there have been weeks upon weeks that I couldn't. I was vomiting. My first chemo regimen was pretty tough. So there were a lot of days that I couldn't get out, even out of the house, regardless, let alone come to work and actually be useful. But I will say, my sister or somebody, my brother, somebody would come and they would at least make me get out of bed, do some of those steps to, we'd go outside and sit on my porch and just like get up and move, because there are days you don't feel like you can get up and move. But when you do, it does feel better. Or like when I'd go to Walmart, I mean, like that was an adventure. I'm like, yay, I went to Walmart today and bought groceries. You know, I didn't want to pass out by the time I was done. You get tired easy, but like, so now on my new regimen, being able to come in, you know, part of the week, it feels good to put on your makeup, put on your big girl pants and your wig, and you feel better. You just feel better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I do a lot of my doctoring, like I said, at Mayo Clinic, and Mayo has said to me over and over, 50% is medical, but 50% of your treatment, of your cure, is mental.
It's
your attitude. You have to get up. And that's why I say between, like, Ashley and I really do truly feel that the fact we got it at a young age, and we do have younger children, that really motivates you, because I see so many of, and I'll call them friends now. They call us sisters, you know, breast cancer sisters, but you see them and they don't have people around them motivating them. And you talk to them, that's like, oh, I can't get out of bed and I can't do this. And for Ashley, that's the first thing I told her. I said, you go get yourself a wig, you put your makeup on, you get dressed, and you get out whenever you can. And there's days you can't get out. There's days that you just you're begging to die. It's like, God, I can't take it anymore. Just let me go. I can't do this. But I said, you know, you just got to keep going. And I myself, with the restaurant, I'll go down to Salve Vitale's, and I'm just like, I see people. It gives me energy. People are, and that's the thing. It's, you don't realize how many people really do care about you.
Oh, sure.
And everyone, Sam would say to me, I'd like to just get a voice recording of you, because every person that walks through that door is, how's Francesca? How's Francesca? He's like, I get tired of saying it. Just get dressed and come down there so they can see you, you know?
Sure.
And so, and I do. It's like I get dressed whenever I could. Even on my worst times, I would get dressed, and, you know, I'd move slow, and, you know I wasn't really much help, but at least I was around people and I felt good, and it does uplift your spirits when you see all the people caring about you.
Sure.
And it adds that, I mean, for me too, like my daughter, there were days, and this is a secret, so I won't be able to let her hear this, but I would get dressed, act like I was going to work that day before I'd drop her off, and I'd go home and get right back in my sweatpants and be back in bed, because I wanted it to be as normal as possible.
Sure.
And that to her made her feel like, okay, I can go to school today. I don't have to worry about whether mom's coming to pick me up or not. Because it's heartbreaking, you know, to see them worry. That's the absolute most heartbreaking thing about this whole thing for me is
Our
my
children.
Yeah.
Yep.
Francesca Vitale, Ashley Lovelace, thank you both for coming in and sharing your stories.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
Get mammograms.
Yes.
Do self-checks.
Early detection. And like I said, it'll be the best money ever spent, even if your insurance doesn't pay for it. Just do it.
All right, we spend so much money on a lot of goofy things, right, throughout our lives.
Yeah, skip the Starbucks coffee for a little bit and get a mammogram.
There you go.
All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is KWPC, AM 860, FM 95.1. We are the voice of Muscatine. Voice of